What if the world, the one you think you know, has these secret layers just hiding right beneath the surface of what we normally see? Today, we're doing a deep dive in some really, really extraordinary claims. These are based on satellite images that, well, if they're true, they could kind of redefine how we understand life on Earth. Our mission here is to unpack what one individual, Roger from Kansas City, says he found. He spent ages, meticulously going over satellite photos, and he believes he's found evidence of giant humanoid figures. And not just them, but their advanced technology too, all hidden in plain sight. You shared his sources, and wow, he really thinks he's onto something astonishing. We're going to walk through it all with you.
It is fascinating, isn't it, how just a persistent eye looking at readily available info can lead to conclusions that really challenge everything conventional. We'll definitely dig into his methods, the specific visuals he's pointing to. But we also need to think about the bigger picture, like how we interpret ambiguous images in the first place. How do we tell the difference between someone just seeing patterns because they want to versus finding maybe genuine anomalies? So yeah, prepare for a perspective that's pretty unconventional.
Okay, so let's start with the discoverer himself, Roger from Kansas City.
Yeah.
He says he found these anomalies, these incredible figures in these forested areas, mountainous region. But here's the kicker. Right away, he's decided not to share the exact location. Not yet, anyway. Which, immediately makes you ask why. What's he trying to protect?
Exactly. And he's quite specific about it. He says, look, I'm not being a jerk. That's his phrase. But his reason is, well, he claims that in the past, other similar satellite photos he was studying just vanished. They were scrubbed out and or deleted, as he puts it. So he's trying to stop that happening this time. He even throws out a warning, like, if they, whoever they are, do scrub these images, he'll just release the location to everyone anyway. Says he hopes they are listening. It definitely adds a layer of intrigue, maybe even drama.
Yeah, you really get a sense this is weighing on him. He says he's actually still a little freaked out by it all. And this discovery, it only happened a little over a week ago from when he recorded his findings, so it's very fresh. He also warns us, about the pictures themselves. They're often blurry, grainy, and sometimes he had to, digitally pull them out of the dark.
Right, which isn't totally unusual for satellite pics, atmosphere, shadows, resolution limits.
Exactly. So he suggests you might need to let your eyes adjust, maybe zoom in and out a few times to see what he's seeing, which really highlights how interpretive this kind of work can be. What's your take on that? Him being freaked out, does that add weight or maybe suggest it's more subjective?
That's a good point. That kind of emotional reaction, it often shows how deeply something hits someone, Whether it turns out to be objectively real or more speculative, it clearly means a lot to him personally. Now, getting into what he actually saw. At first, he thought he was just looking at trees. Seems reasonable. But then, that's where things take a turn. He looks closer and realizes, no, these are humanoid figures. And he insists it wasn't just a quick glance, not like seeing a face in the clouds. He believes he clearly identified them, not just random rocks.
And the scale here is just staggering. We're not talking about regular human size. He used Google's measurement tools, apparently, and estimates these main figures are, get this, between 50 to 60 feet tall. But it's not just one size either. He talks about shorter giants, too, maybe 20 to 30-foot range, and even little guys down in the 18 to 20-foot range.
That's incredibly specific for blurry images.
It is. And for many people listening, this might scream, pareidolia. Our brains trying to make sense of random shapes. But Roger's descriptions, they go way beyond just seeing a shape. He's talking clothing, interactions, specific faces. How does he seem to justify that leap?
Well, that's the core of it, isn't it? He seems to rely on the consistency, the recurring humanoid forms and features he says he sees across different images, and the level of detail he claims is pretty astonishing. He points out this interesting fact, and this really jumped out at me, that these huge figures actually have clothing.
Clothing on 60-foot figures in satellite photos.
That's what he claims, not just shapes, but attire. And it goes further. He describes interactions between them. Like one image, he says, shows a giant kissing his girlfriend. Yeah. And another seems to show one in a seated position talking to this giant with other smaller giants standing off to the left. He even wonders if one of the smaller ones is like a baby sitting on its mom's lap with the dad right there. That kind of speculation.
Wow. Okay.
And he mentions lots of images with groups just standing together. Some even have their arms up in the air.
And the details just keep coming. He talks about one figure that looks like a, quote, Moses-looking guy. White hair and beard, holding his hand up, maybe holding up something. Roger's comment is that there's always a lot going on with these individuals. It suggests like complex activity, not just static shapes.
Which leads into the diversity of appearances he describes.
Yeah.
It's not uniform. Some, he says, have a very human look, pretty straightforward, but others. He describes them as not human, not alien, but more of a monster type of look.
Monster type.
Yeah, calls them kind of scary looking. And apparently the bigger ones tend to be the scarier ones. He gives examples like a zombie monster guy looking thing. And another figure he details has a clear forehead, eyes, even a receding hairline, and a mustache. But it's surrounded by other odd creatures.
It sounds like a whole ecosystem of strange figures.
Yeah.
And then there's the headwear.
Right, he says many are wearing these headdresses or attachments. Describes them as big and ornate, and he's specific. Not hats.
Again, the level of detail.
Yeah.
How confident does he sound distinguishing an ornate headdress from, say, a weirdly shaped rock or some visual artifact in a grainy photo?
He seems confident basing it on, like I said, seeing similar things repeatedly.
And he mentioned color, too.
Yeah, in clearer daylight photos, he notes a very white and red coloration seems prominent on them.
Okay. And he even admits some scenes are hard to figure out, right? Like the mosh pit idea.
Exactly. He describes the scene with giant figures and asks, are they grabbing this person and is that person screaming? Or are they having a good time in their giant mosh pit? And he just flat out says, I do not know. Which is refreshingly honest, maybe.
So giants with diverse looks, clothes, maybe headwear. But it doesn't stop there. He found structures, too.
Yes. Nearby the giants, he says he discovered what appears to be a large statue.
How large?
Measures, according to him using Google tools, 178 feet from the base to the top of its head.
Whoa. And what does it look like?
He describes it as looking like a king, got a crown, beard, mustache, and is also wearing this clothing. Another clothed giant, essentially, but maybe stone.
178-foot statue near 60-foot giants. Okay. What else? Vehicles?
Yes, ships, or vessels, he calls them, also nearby. He notes they have a kind of camel pattern camouflage.
Like desert camel?
Seems like it, yeah. And a very organic shape. He thinks this helps them blend in, especially to mountainous, rocky areas, which, if true, suggests, sophisticated awareness and a desire to stay hidden.
And then there's the really big one, the spaceship.
Ah, yes. He points to one very long vessel and straight up identifies it as a spaceship. And the size, again measured on Google Earth, he says, is 400 feet long.
400 feet.
And he adds that even longer ships have been found in that same area. There's a smaller vessel visible near the big one, too.
Okay, my head's spinning a bit. Giants, statues, camouflaged organic ships, a 400-foot spaceship. What does Roger make of all this? What's his conclusion?
Well, his main theory seems to be that this specific region he's looking at is a kind of home base for these entities. Interestingly, though, he thinks the main place is actually Antarctica.
Why Antarctica?
His reasoning is basically because you can't see anything there and they got it all just scrubbed out. Total information blackout in his view. But he figures for this other location, maybe they didn't think anybody would look where I'm looking. Or maybe, he speculates, there are even people, officials maybe, who don't know this is there as well.
Huh. Like it's hidden even from some insiders.
Perhaps. He does admit the amount of stuff he's finding is overwhelming. He keeps thinking, well, that's got to be it, but then finds more. And he did mention that the ships, these vessels, will be the main topic for his next video. So it sounds like an ongoing investigation for him.
So, all right, let's recap this deep dive. We've walked through Roger's findings. From these potential 60-foot humanoids, some monstrous, some human-like, wearing clothes and headwear, to a massive statue. And these organic-looking vessels, including one he calls a 400-foot spaceship, all supposedly hidden, but visible if you look closely enough at satellite imagery. It's definitely a lot to take in. And it's a pretty vivid example of what one person, with a very particular focus, can claim to find in public data.
It really does raise a big question, doesn't it? If satellite imagery could potentially hold clues to such, well, extraordinary things, hidden populations, advanced tech, what else might be lurking just a few clicks away? What other incredible possibilities could be waiting to be found in this huge digital map of our world we now have?
Yeah, what stands out to you after hearing all this? Maybe it just makes you want to, I don't know, poke around Google Earth a bit more. Or maybe it's just a reminder that there could always be more to explore, often in places you'd least expect.
Well, we hope this deep dive gave you, if nothing else, a surprising new perspective. And maybe, just maybe, a reason to look up, or perhaps zoom in with a bit more curiosity next time.